Yes, blessed love, my brothers and sisters. Blessed love, blessed love. I'm really pleased to see you guys. Um, yeah, the community has gathered as usual, one by one and two by two. We are here. It was really difficult to come on tonight, my brothers and sisters. I actually was going to cancel the live because it has been very challenging to manage my week and get on tonight and organize myself because, as you all know, probably I put it up on Insta. I have had a bereavement and I've had lots and lots of different things going on. So I wasn't really organized. I had a couple of cases that I wanted to highlight, and I just didn't get my wiggle on in time. And that's actually the first time that's ever happened. I'm always prepared. I always know what I'm going to do. We've got our cases well and prepared and prepped, and our victims and whoever else. But on this occasion, with the challenging week that I've had, and the tragic death of my cousin, it has been very challenging indeed. So we've got a kind of different format, which I did actually say to you guys that we'd be exploring more of that when we had Sheldon on the other day. Good night, everybody. When we had Sheldon on the other day, and the sister from Sisters of the Underground, that was very well received. And we do want to kind of expand the narrative and expand the conversation because, the topic that we deal with is so interconnected. It's so interconnected into other aspects of our lives and the issues that we see playing out in our community that we have to widen the narrative and widen the conversation. This is about educating and raising awareness as much as it is exposing and uncovering the wrongs that have been done in our community. So we like to widen the conversation. I didn't have time to promote. I didn't have time to do any of those things. There is no call out this week. There is a big thing coming next week. Stay tuned for that on Instagram because that's going to come up. I think it's just very interesting that we've got individuals. So basically what it is, I'll tell you, I'm not going to say who at this point, but I will say that somebody that we have called out quite extensively. It was a big story at the time. It wasn't that long ago. And it's an individual where we had a lot of backlash. It was one of those ones. We had a lot of backlash and lots of people defending this individual. We get a lot of that anyway. But this person, it was particularly, that way. And now we've had new evidence that has come in that we're hoping is going to encourage the women that originally came forward, and as usual, who were called liars and so on and so forth, that it will encourage them to really, really come forward. So we're going to feature that next week, my brothers and sisters. This week, we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to discuss a few topics as a family, as a campaign, as a unit. And I'm hoping that you guys are going to lend your voices to a bit more than just the comments in this situation. But yeah, you guys saw the promos. The Black Awards are coming up. It is now it has a date, it has a venue, it has tickets on sale. You guys all know the fight that I've been through with these perpetrators trying to cancel me for the Black Awards, and I'm a big supporter of what they do. I think it's something that we should support as a community. They're not getting as much support as I think they should get, and it's a positive award, and we should back it as much as we can. The nominations will be closing, I think, at the end of this month for the other categories, but the category that I'm in, which is Honours of Distinction under Community Achievement, that is going to be open right up until, I think, the very last hour. So the date is the 30th of October. I did flash it at the beginning and I only had a screenshot of it. I should get a proper banner made for it. But the date is the 30th of October. Put it in your diaries. Start supporting it by buying tickets. The likelihood is that I will be at those awards because whichever way things swing, whether I leave or I stay, I'm still going to have to be in the country for His Time Is Up March 2022 in October. And that will just be a couple of weeks later. So it wouldn't make sense to leave at that point, I should imagine. So I intend to be there. And may the best man win. But keep voting. The link is in my bio on @AfuaRose69 on that Instagram page. There's a link in my bio where you can actually go on and start voting for people. And you don't have to vote for me if you don't want to. Vote for the best person because it's a community award. It's a great thing for our community. And I would, I just want it supported. It's not really about winning. I wanted to stay in the game and not be cancelled or denominated as per the perpetrator's requests. And that's actually happened. That's done and dusted. The Black Awards are happy. And we're pressing forward. So vote for who you need to vote for. Yes, of course, you know, for somebody that has quite a competitive spirit, naturally, it'd be lovely to win. But at the end of the, and really for me, it is an ego thing. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. I'd like to say in your face to the perpetrators and all the haters and all the people that try to crush what we do. That would be lovely. If not, I'm happy to just have stayed in the game and their efforts have, come to nothing at the end of the day, my brothers and sisters. So yeah, first up, we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to hear from a Black detective constable of the Metropolitan Police Force, and also spearhead of Black Wall Street, that platform. His name is Sean Pascal, exemplary brother, wonderful supporter, and the kind of brother that we need in our community. But we have a barrier with us, you know, and that barrier is that we hate the police, and with good reason, you know. When I was growing up, Black police officers were seen with really horrible suspicion. They were called Judas. We didn't trust them just as much as they're not trusted now. But it's a very deep-seated thing in our community. And sometimes I think it kind of, you know, there might be some sort of unconscious, as well as the brutality that we've suffered and the unfairness and the bias and all the rest of it, and everything that Black people have been through with the police in our community, in our history in this country. I do sometimes think that there is also an unconscious kind of adverse effect when it comes onto our experience as slave people, because it kind of represents a slave master, doesn't it? This force that wants to kind of brand us and beat us and kill us much of the time, as we've seen time and time again. But there has to come a point where I think to myself, at what point are we going to get control of that institution in a satisfactory way? And it's not necessarily defund the police. I'm not down with any of those arguments, by the way. I don't believe they should be defunded. I think that's preposterous. And I believe that what we need to do actually is form a fifth column of credible grassroots Black individuals that are able to go into the upper echelons of the police force and make changes right down onto the front line. That's the only way to do it. These people are not going to allow us to defund their police force. And which country would do well without a police force anyway? It's preposterous. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about SPAC Nation. And then hopefully we're going to have a conversation about colorism, because there's something else that's come up today as well. And I'll leave that till last. That's a little bit of a call out in some regards, but it isn't to do with sexual abuse or any historic things of that nature. So I'd like the His Time Is Up family to give a big warm welcome to Sean Pascal, one of our brothers. Yes, he's a Fed. And the police made us the enemy, somebody said. But absolutely, but we need to have these conversations. They are difficult conversations within our community, and we need to have them because we've got issues that we need to solve. And unless we have allies, and we already know that the police force as it is don't have a lot of allies, then how are we ever going to get further in all the things that we need to sort out in terms of lawlessness and whatever? But let's have that conversation, and please welcome Sean Pascal to the stage. Yes, my brother. Blessed love, Sean. Blessed love, blessed love.
Thank you, Afua.
Good to have you on. Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me on.
We've the fat, haven't we, many a times on these topics?
Yeah, all the time, time. I love our conversations.
So yeah, welcome to brother. I want to see big hands for this brother here, because he ain't no Judas. He's fought the Met. I'm going to allow him to tell his story, you know, from the inside out. And he's one of our own, and we need more brothers like this in the police force. We need more people that are real, that are able to kind of be connected to the community, understand what our issues are, you know, because whether we like it or not, there is a kind of, I don't know, it's a kind of underbelly that I see sometimes, where it's almost like we can't deal with the police and we can't be policed. So therefore, we try to keep it all in house and deal with our own issues ourselves, which is usually lawless in itself, you know, and creates a lot of mayhem and confusion in our community when we try to police ourselves. It's not effective. What inevitably ends up happening is that some of the bad people in our community, many of those that we have called out as well, end up being the police of our community, and it breeds more problems. So, my brother, if you can just kind of share with us your story as to, you know, why you became a police officer, you know, a little bit of background, and
Yeah.
some of the difficulties that you face as a Black police officer, both from the Met and the community as a serving officer, that would be really brilliant.
Yeah, no problem at all. So yeah, I'm born and bred in London. I'm from Southwest London originally. So yeah, I'm all too familiar with, you know, all the issues that have gone on in London with the Black community. I've been there. My family have a history with the police going back to the 1960s, and they've been at the forefront of a lot of the campaigning and fighting for a lot of the things we now have the privilege in our community of having. You know, my uncle, his name's Alex Pascal. For those of you not old enough to know him,
Mm-hmm.
he's been around since the 60s. He was the first Black man to have a radio show. He was one of the founders of the Notting Hill Carnival, the founder of the Voice newspaper, and the list goes on and on and on.
We can't forget Alice Pascal, those of us who are of the generation, absolute pioneer. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I joined the police 18 years ago. Policing is in my DNA because back in the West Indies, you've got family that are in the police service or the police force. So you know, I've always had a sense of righteousness and a calling to be in the police, from an early age, to be honest.
Mm.
And it was never encouraged. You know, my mum was fearful of me joining the police, especially around the time of Stephen Lawrence and what was happening there. But the feeling never left me. And it wasn't until I was about 30, 31, I was going to become a father for the first time. I felt I needed a career. I felt I wanted to be a role model for my kids. I didn't want to just talk about it. I wanted to actually be someone they can see trying. So I joined the Met Police in 2004, and it was tough for me. For someone who only just got their GCSEs and didn't go beyond that, really. I've got life learning, plenty of that. So yeah, it was a huge struggle for me, but I was determined. I got through it. And I made my parents proud that day when I did the passing out parade. And I've been blessed. I've had, on the whole, a very good career. I've worked in specialist crime, so that's dealing with murders and shootings, things like that. And I think I've been fortunate in the environment I've been in that I didn't experience any um, in your face racism. Um, and you know, I was really focused on just doing my work, and so, but it wasn't until I faced this racism, I didn't even know what I was feeling at the time. I felt low. I felt lost. I just wasn't myself. I was really, really depressed. And it was just this new supervisor I had just really just didn't sit well with me, the way he was treating me, the way he was challenging me. And this is a man that's come into my space where I've worked in this department for a long time. And he's just, you know, trying to make me feel like an outsider when I'm the one who welcomes people in.
Mm.
So, yeah, so, you know, after a while, the penny dropped for me. I challenged his behavior. I put it out there, expecting to be backed up. And I wasn't. I wasn't backed up. And I think that hurt more than anything, because these are people I've worked with for a long time. You expect them to have your back. And yeah, it was investigated. It didn't go anywhere, even though there was plenty of evidence. And they thought I would go away. But no, I was angry. I was confused. I was all over the place. But I was determined. And I took the anger and I did something positive with it. I created Black Wall Street Media, which is my which insulates me and gives me the leverage I need. And I started representing other people as a union rep. And then I realized the problem wasn't just race, the problem was misogyny, the problem was sexism. It was everything, you know.
All the byproducts of white supremacy, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. So instead of me towing the line and following the status quo, you know, I couldn't. I had to be true to myself, and I had to speak up. And yeah, I took some licks. You know, I took a lot of licks, but I wasn't going away. And I'm still here. You know, because at the end of the day, what's the point in me signing up to be a police officer if you're not going to speak up for the truth, even if you're on your own? So, you know, I'm just not having it, you know. So I see my role as protecting the rights of the community, and policing the police, policing my colleagues. And that doesn't mean chastising them all the time. Sometimes they just need correcting, or maybe they just need to see where they're going wrong. So there's many ways of doing that. When I have to, I will go there. When you go through the proper channels and you don't get anywhere and you're being blocked, then yeah, I will find alternative routes. But you know, I won't be silenced, because at the end of the day, I might as well just hand in my warrant card and go home.
Absolutely.
Which is what they want.
That's absolutely what they want. But I think a lot of people don't get that insight into the fact that we've got a struggle on the street in terms of that same misogynistic, white supremacist power structure. But it's also from the inside, isn't it? It's the fact that Black people join the force and also be kept in their positions, if you like, or ostracized and oppressed from within. And a lot of us don't have that insight. We don't have that conversation with Black police officers.
No,
What does it
you need
feel
that
like?
insight.
What does it feel like to stand on the front line trying to serve your community, trying to protect your community against what you know is an injustice, and you know, you feeling that that's the most powerful role that you can take in order to do that, and then your community backlash? Did you have any experiences like that?
No, I have to say, my community have been behind me 100%.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah,
And you know, and that's what empowers me. You know, I'm not here to integrate and segregate from my community. I'm here to bring my whole community with me. Yeah, and yeah, no, it's, I think if you go into the police and then you try and fit in and you try and become this other person, that's when you're going to have problems with your community. When you come into the police and you stay true to yourself, you stay true to your beliefs, you stay true to your community, there's no problem there. You know, people, at the end of the day, people just want to be dealt with fairly. So even people I've dealt with from my community, you know, who've committed offences, I deal with them fairly. I deal with them with respect, and I get it in return. You know, so
that's a good experience, because you know, I've spoken to other Black police officers that have really got the nub end of it when it comes to how people treat them on the street, how people view them, and so on and so forth. So we actually need more of that connection, is my point. But more relevant to what we deal with here, Sean, I guess really it's we need an insight, I guess, into why it is that the police don't investigate cases of sexual abuse as thoroughly as they do other crimes, you know. And as a black police officer, understanding how those issues play out in the black community, what do you think some of those solutions might be, or why, or give us a reason why you think that there's this just massive disparity. There's an issue with sexual abuse allegations anyway as a crime. It's a very difficult crime to prove.
Mm.
Uh, but there's even more of a sort of entrenched burying of the head in the sand when it comes on to black women.
Yeah,
And I think that's a kind of wider societal perception of black women, as well as an internalized racism issue of how black men treat black women and sexualize them as well, and how sometimes black women treat themselves and sexualize themselves. So there's
yeah,
this whole kind of mixed bag of issues that are general issues but become even more polarized when it comes into the black community. I don't
yeah.
know if you've got any experiences of. I
And
know it's not your area because you weren't a sexual crimes officer.
I did it for a short time.
Okay.
I did it for a very short time.
If I turn my
Um,
camera off, it's because I'm fiddling with
yeah.
stuff. I'm still here. Yeah.
And, but I've had instances where I've had to deal with crime scenes where there's been rapes and sexual assault. So my insight has been limited, but I have had some insight. Um, I think the threshold is a huge problem because it's always going to boil down to one person's word against the other. And
Uh huh.
I think to because you've got to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. That is really difficult to do. Um, especially in those circumstances when it's usually one person's word against the other. From a wider point of view, um, I mean, you just have to look at some of the stuff that's coming out about how male police officers are treating female police officers.
Uh
Um,
huh.
I don't think that helps.
Big issue.
Big issue. If you've got a problem like that inside your own backyard, how are you going to deal with those problems? In the community. So that needs sorting out. Um,
Mm.
before they get anything right. There are so many challenges, and then often it's a case of you've got males investigating these instances who have very little empathy or insight and even appetite to understand a woman's point of view, understand what a woman's going through, her experience. It's difficult. I do my best, but it helps to have female colleagues, and it would help even more to have black female colleagues as well. That's
Mm.
because no one understands the issues in our community better than our own people. So
Absolutely.
we're in the best place to fix it.
But I just remember being part of the public sector back in the early 2000s when a lot of these issues were coming up at that point. You find that a lot of the time that things repeat themselves. Sometimes it's a season of gang violence, sometimes it's a season of mental health, and so on. And I do remember inroads. I remember when the DV laws changed and the Vogue agenda came out, violence against women and girls. There was a lot of money given by central government to train people like the police and various other agencies in how to deal with these situations. That's when we saw the emergence of, properly resourced rape suites and
Mm.
female officers and specially trained officers and stuff like that. Why are we still here with all that effort?
Yeah, but we've gone full circle because initially rape allegations were dealt with by the local boroughs, and then they were made a specialist unit,
Mm-hmm.
and then they dismantled that specialist unit and they've gone back to the local boroughs, and they can keep moving it from left to right and back and forth, but unless you pour in resources and into it in terms of um, putting people there, that can do the job thoroughly,
Mm-hmm.
where they're not handling like 10 or 20 rape investigations at any one time, you know, then you're always going to have this problem. There needs to be, and at the same time, I think we need to be more proactive in
Mm-hmm.
terms of policing the streets,
Mm-hmm.
um, to make women feel safer and make everyone feel safer, to be honest, because that's why kids are carrying knives, because they don't feel safe on
Mm-hmm.
the streets half the time. So I just feel that, we need to put more. Yeah, and they talk about defunding the police, but we've already been stripped of a lot of resources, a lot of
Yeah.
money, and they're on their knees.
It's something I can never understand. We've got this huge problem, especially in urban centres, but yet you're cutting police budgets. It makes no sense to me. I'm not for stop and search in the way that it's been done. It's an abuse of power. I'm not for any of the injustices when it comes to the police, but I do think it's high time that we, as a Black community, take our place in certain statutory agencies and start to think about leadership, because we
Yeah,
don't do that. We just don't do that. There's this big barrier that says it's us and them. We go into other areas of corporate and will seek leadership positions there. But the police is this big no-no. Why can't we do that? Why can't we infiltrate, if you like, in the most friendliest of terms? I don't mean some kind of hostile takeover of the police. I don't mean that for a minute.
yeah,
Excuse me, but we should be assimilating ourselves into statutory agencies in order to exact change.
yeah,
And we need to break down those walls, because it is the same psychology that creates the wall of silence in our community that has some of these atrocities play out
yeah,
and go unpunished. It's the same mindset that refuses to acknowledge that perhaps we should actually become a part of the police force. I'm for that. I'm
yeah.
completely for that. How do you think we could effectively change that mindset? Have we just got to wait for the old guard to die and then
No,
educate the youngers underneath them? What are
no.
the inroads that we can make? Because we've got a gun violence problem, we've got a knife violence problem, we've got a youth crime problem, we've got a sexual crimes problem, we've got a drug dealing and taking problem. These are all issues of policing. And how are we going to tackle those situations in our community if we don't start having not just the support for the collateral damage of those issues, but if we're not on the front line of enforcement of how we need to stop it? It
Yeah,
just makes no sense to me. We need
no,
to start making those inroads. How do you think
absolutely.
is the best way that we could do that? Bearing in mind all the other issues that we've just talked about and this wall
Yeah,
of silence and this distrust.
yeah. We need to start taking. We need to get into key positions, and if the police isn't for you, then that's fine. You can go into the independent advisory groups. You can become a councillor. You become, an MP. There's so many, a parent governor.
Mm-hmm.
There's so
Mm-hmm.
many places we need people, our people, to be involved. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and for me, policing is important because it's all very well telling them, what they should be doing, but that's like you telling me to. It's like I don't know. I've used this analogy before. It's like the Chinese community telling me how to police them and then blame me when I get it wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know anything about the Chinese community. I'll do my best to find out about your culture and everything else, but I still know I wouldn't probably be able to do it better than someone from their own community that understands the issues and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And I think we need to start thinking differently when it comes to joining the police. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, we're going to meet institutional racism and all these. You're going to meet not just institutional racism, you're going to meet all these other isms as well. But you're going to
Mm,
meet them in every corner of society.
of course.
Okay. And the fact that we're not joining is exactly what the old guard want.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the old guard are breeding their new guard. So don't think they're going away. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we need
Absolutely.
to, there's these positions hold power. when you've got power to arrest someone, charge someone, and see justice in the right way, we need to take those positions. We need to police our own streets, and the only way we can do that is being part of a police service. And yeah, I'm telling you, yeah, you do have to go in with your eyes wide open. You will meet these challenges, but we've been through worse, and we're better for it. So, and it's not about getting in there and getting up the ranks. Look at me, 18 years in, I'm still at the bottom rank, DC.
You're on the front line, brother.
But I'm
And
on
that's
the front line. I like to keep it real. I like to keep my feet on the ground. And I don't need to go up the ranks to have power, because leadership has changed. Leadership don't come from the top down no more. Leadership comes from the bottom up.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's why you
know?
have so much consultation with management. Much of the time, they're not always corpus mentis as to what's going on in their patch. And I don't just mean police officers, I mean any kind of department like that. You have to have that liaison with your staff team, with the front line. They feed policy without even realizing it. And if you can, bottle that power and understand it, then yes, you do enact change.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to build strong foundations as well. We need to make sure that we've got these people in these departments that oversee discipline and make sure things are done properly. And then when we've
HR.
got that strong HR, all these
Yeah,
places,
yeah.
when we've got a strong foundation, then we can start elevating people, because we'll have their backs.
Yes.
And they won't
That's
be
the
picked
thing,
off.
isn't it? That's the thing, because most people think join the police force, become a Fed, go on the streets and terrorize people. There is so much more to the Met, isn't there? It's like you said, there's HR, there's other positions of senior management that
Absolutely.
cause change. But
Yeah.
I mean, really, I think, because I don't think a couple of poster campaigns, which they've had over the years, is going to cut it.
No.
We've got to have outreach programs. We've got to do it ourselves and have a link, as we do a lot of the time now. One of the greatest revolutions, I believe, in the voluntary and statutory sectors has been partnership and multidisciplinary working. So we work with police teams, we work with social services, everyone's working together. That's a great thing. So we need more of that, but at a grassroots level. We need more Black organizations that are willing to partnership with the police in order to effect that change and to direct the narrative where it needs to go and the resources where it needs to go.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
how do we get our people to understand that? Because it is a massive no.
Yeah, I know, but in order, if you want real change, you've got to come into that space. You've got to come inside and see how the
See the
system
machine.
works, see the machine. Because trust me, I know, I've seen the machine. I'm seeing the machine, and every time they've come at me, they've shown their hand. Okay. And the tactics are always the same. So you need to, you need to know the mechanics of everything inside. Then you can start to make changes. But what people are seeing from the outside looking in, even the mayor and people like that, that they don't know. They don't know. They're only going by what people are telling them, and they're the only people around that they have around them are people that just want to tell him what he wants to hear, or what they feel he wants to hear. They're not telling him the truth. They're not breaking it down for him. Only you can do that. You need to come in, because I know our community will come in and we'll just tell it as it is.
And that's not people's perception of Black officers. We always think, oh, they're coconuts, they're sellouts, they're not there to fight for the community. Why would they join the police force? It's the other side, it's the enemy. We can't work with them. I'm going to put the stream in for those of you that might want to jump in the conversation. There it is. It'd be really good if we could have a couple of people, give their views about what they think. Not everyone's down with that, Sean.
No,
It's
that's
a
cool.
very unpopular topic.
No, I get it.
Very, very
I get it.
unpopular.
I get it. For a while I lost my trust, and well, I can't say I completely trust what goes on. How can you when you read all these things? You know, you'd be stupid to put your whole trust in
Mhm.
something. But I have belief that things have to get better, will get better, because if I give up hope, then I might as well go home, you know. So
Mhm.
if you think I'm foolish, then let me be that fool. But I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it so my kids don't have to go through this, and you know. So I'll weather the storm. I'll take whatever comes at me.
And bless you for that, my brother. I'm loving your background, by the way.
Yeah.
Clearly
Yeah.
a big supporter of the His Time Is Up campaign, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. I
yeah.
love I love everything you do, Afua. You know, I've known you probably a year and a half now.
Mhm.
And it's just like finding family.
Mhm.
And yeah, if we had people like you in the police, oh my gosh. Oh my
I think it's a
gosh.
little bit late for me, Sean, actually.
But yeah,
It's
but
a little bit late for me, but
we
yeah,
sh-
I'm all
we
for it. I'm
shake
all
things
down with
up.
it.
We shake
Shake
things up.
things up. I'm about shaking things up across the board when it comes onto the system, to be fair,
Absolutely.
because it's the same system. It's the same sort of structure, like you said, the misogyny, the old boys club, that's running everything. It isn't just the police. So we encounter it wherever we work, wherever we go.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and that's
And
ultimately what needs to come down. As a
absolutely.
concept, the police is actually a really good thing, you know. And as much as we say we hate, it is the first people that we draw for, whether we like it or not, if we are in trouble or if we
Yeah.
want to stop somebody in their tracks.
Yeah.
I've said this a few times on the platform, Sean, but you know yourself, the community is so anti-police. You know, we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to talk even if it's a murder. We're not going to
Mm-hmm.
talk to the police. We don't call feds. We don't snitch. We don't call feds.
Mm.
But what we've seen when it comes on to this subject and this topic that we deal with here, it's instantly, why haven't you called the police? Where's the evidence? And I just find it really, really interesting.
Yeah.
But you know what it says to me is that whether we like it or not, when we feel powerless to do anything ourselves, we call the police.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense that we become a part of that and do
Yeah.
that on our own terms, you know,
Yeah.
with our own power, and keep it as authentic as possible.
And yeah, and you got to remember, you know, just as they label us, our sweeping assumptions and stereotypes, we can't do the same. We know better than to
Mm,
do the same. We know
yeah.
there's good and there's bad police. You
Yep.
know, focus on the positive. I don't, and if I come across a bad one, I deal with it. You know,
Yeah.
but I know there's a great many of them because I've worked with them, and we may not see eye to eye. Of course not. We have different lived experiences. We come from different places, you know.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
but you know, we can agree to disagree and still move forward.
All About the Black says there's always been a Black Police Federation. Does it really work? Good question. And we've spoken about this as well, haven't we? Do you want to
Yeah.
comment on that?
Yeah, there's been a Black Police Association. It's not federation. Association that was started it's about 27, 28 years old now. For me, it started off well. They did great things because I know a lot of the people that were involved in setting that up. They're really good friends of mine and some of the previous chairs. I
Mm-hmm.
feel the past 10, 12 years, they've not really stood for anything, if I'm honest. Um, that they've lost their way. They've not been engaging with the community. They've not been engaging with the police officers, black police
Mm,
officers, and they've lost a lot of the trust and confidence, just like the organisation themselves. I'm not sure what they stand for nowadays, but you know, it is a position I did go for, and I was prevented from chairing. Let's say I was prevented from chairing the Black Police Association.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's politics, but
So
I
that
don't.
usual kind of plantation mentality that we see, where others that get to a certain position want to keep the rest of us back, because that's another thing we need to sort out in our community as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I just feel it's a place that you go if you want to get an MBE or an award
Mm-hmm.
or progress your career. And the focus really isn't on the community or what it was set up to do. That's
Mm-hmm.
my personal feeling. Others may disagree. I'm not here to bash them or pull them down. I do think it is a good thing. I think it can be a really good thing.
Mm.
Um, but right now, it's falling far short of what it was set up to deliver, in my opinion.
I completely agree. And like so many other black caucuses and black associations and stuff of its time, they have lost their way. There's lots more like them, like even the Society of Black Lawyers and people like that don't have the clout and the organization and the focus that they used to have. They were actually quite powerful entities in their time, and they
Yeah,
did a lot for black professionals in those fields. But yeah, they've lost their way, and that happens a lot with ambition, with positions of power, with individualism. These are all kind of external factors that we need to deal with as a society anyway, much less a black community. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
um,
I just feel they're out of touch with the community.
completely. Somebody else says, I find black cops the worst ones and female cops in my experience. There might be some truth in that,
Yeah,
Sean.
yeah. That's this gentleman's. Who's that? A man or a woman who
I think
said
it could
that?
be a lady. Key
Okay. Yeah,
Dishes.
I'm not going to argue with you. There are some black cops that integrate, and they kind of, like I said, I've used the phrase, they segregate from their community.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be seen to fit in, and they're struggling really with their identity.
Yep,
It's and that's what's gone on in the past.
absolutely.
Because you're spending so much time working with your colleagues, of course you want to fit in, you want to make friends, and yeah, you do lose your way, you do kind of lose your identity. I probably did the same thing at some point because I was just so engrossed in my work, spending very little time at home with my community. And yes, so I'm not going to argue with that. I'm sure it does happen.
Mm,
But again, what I try and do is I try and empower my black colleagues to be themselves, be their authentic self. You
mhm.
know, don't try and fit in, stand out, because that's
Yes.
what you're brought here to do. You're not just a face, you're here to speak up and be a voice.
Hmm.
So I feel that instead of pulling them down or dissing them or whatever, just try and empower them and then show them that, you know what, I respect what you're doing, but you could be doing it better. Just try and build them up, build their confidence up,
Mm.
because it's hard, because they're getting a battering from inside, and then they're getting a battering from outside. So where do they go? It's tough.
It's
Yeah.
really, really tough. But the work that you're doing is so essential that I feel that we should back it. So everybody jump onto Black Wall Street. I'm gonna thank you, my brother, for your contribution
Thank
and
you,
your
and thank you
insight. I know
everyone
you
for
don't have
your
much time tonight, so we're gonna
yeah.
have to
Thank
cut
you for your
short.
warm welcome. I saw the claps and everything. I was really
I was
touched.
really hoping that no one would put Judas or something in the chat.
Yeah. Well,
My
did they?
moderators would have dealt with them anyway. Most definitely. Most
Yeah.
definitely. But yeah,
No,
I know you're limited on time tonight, my brother. I don't want to
that's
keep you
okay.
too long.
I'm happy to come on another time, and if
And you've
if
got
you
more
want me
time.
back,
And
yeah,
actually, I'm going to
absolutely.
invite you back on. So I'll hold
Mhm.
you to that because we're going to have a
Yeah,
panel
absolutely.
in a
I'm
few weeks.
here for the community. I'm here to answer any questions, anything like anywhere I can help. That's what I'm here for.
All right. Blessed love, my brother. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
everyone. All right.
Take care. So yeah, I would have loved to really get into it with the brother around some of our cases and why it is that we struggle so much to get the police to pay attention. But he is limited for time tonight. It was really good of him to come on despite his engagements or whatever he has to do tonight. So, Sean, Pascal, Black Wall Street Media, make sure that you subscribe and support him. and do the best that we can. And it is an ongoing conversation. We're going to have that conversation in more detail and deeper at another time. We've got to change the way that we think, brothers and sisters. That's half the reason why this platform even exists, because we've got a mindset in our community that's got to change. It is non-progressive, and that isn't everybody. We've got so many areas of excellence in our community, but those aren't the things that are celebrated. Those aren't the heroes of our community. It is the dredge and the dross and the nastiness that, you know, that gets emulated as heroes within the community. It's just not good enough. We've got to change that narrative. It's simple as that. And I've dedicated my life in trying to get Black people to unthink their slave mentality. I've dedicated my entire life to that. Whichever topic you care to mention, whichever issue that we have in our community, I have campaigned for it since I was 18 years old. You know, this is just the latest one that has risen up as a massive issue in our community. But when it comes on to the grooming of young girls, yeah, my brothers and sisters, I just want someone to come on and give me their perspective, because I don't understand why it has become so epidemic. There is an element that we share more. There's an element that we, you know, social media has become, you know, the biggest thing, and that we can all reach people at 100 miles an hour. So we're hearing more things. You know, there is that, no doubt. But we can't escape the fact that there is something going on. There's something like, I think Double D put it up earlier, blessed love Double D, I don't know if you're here, I think you are, about the amount of children that have been missing in the last few years in Jamaica. And it's 15,000 and odd, I think he said, or 12,000. It was a lot of children. The same numbers we see popping up in America, Black America, in Black England, and in the Caribbean. Something is wrong. Something is happening. Our children are being sex trafficked at a rate, and we just kind of sleep on it. I don't understand what's happening. We're sleeping on it. Now, that isn't necessarily being purported by Black men exclusively. No, it's not. There is a big part of the Albanian community that is into stealing children and trafficking them. And when it comes on to organ selling and things like that, if you understand melanin and you understand that whole concept of Black people's genealogy and how valuable it is to science, the picture starts to become a little clearer, because it isn't just sex tourism. It's about our organs. It's about the fact that we have superior biology, and other, you know, the dominant community, let's call it that, are degenerating in terms of their physiology and their biology, and, you know, congenital diseases and things like that. Melanin, a lot of people don't realize, if you were to sell it, you know, and I think somebody did, that it was kind of on the stock market at one point. But on the stock market, it's worth more than gold and oil for what melanin can actually do. It's not publicized a lot of the time what melanin can actually do. That's why there are certain objectives in the community to harvest aborted fetuses of African descent. You know, there's so much. I could do a whole live on why it is that these things are happening. But what we do know on the ground is that our children are going missing. And they're driving this narrative that it's county lines, it's county lines, it's county lines. We're doing this to ourselves. We're doing this to ourselves. That is part of the story. But there are far more instances of Black children being kidnapped for their organs across the world, and to be sex trafficked, because, you know, that's a predilection for sexually deviant people of opposite races to have that. And there we are, this commodity, but we don't make any noise about it, and we're killing each other. Somebody said, careful, YouTube will delete your channel. Yeah, probably, who knows, at the end of the day. But, you know, sister, the truth is the truth. We do have an issue. And there is an objective. YouTube can't deny that there is racism. They can't deny that there is sex trafficking, and they can't deny the numbers. No one can deny the numbers. It's becoming very, very alarming indeed. Do you understand? Now that brings me, um, yeah, it's a lot of it is sex trafficking. And Gore said it's mainly sex trafficking. A lot of it is, but there is also that element about the organs that's been going on in Jamaica. I know for a long time. You know, it isn't as many sex predators out there as we think it is. A lot of the time, these children are being murdered, and we're not getting the full facts. You know, we're really not getting the full facts at all. But yeah, that moves me to the next topic. So it kind of escaped you guys what's been told about SPAC Nation. Now, I believe the guy in the middle of that photograph is pastor of the church, and I've forgotten his name. Can somebody put it in the chats? I should have written it down earlier. I can't remember this dude's name. Never really paid them much attention. I just thought, oh God, another crazy mega church who wants to steal people's money. Boom. Like, I would shut down on issues like that. I just won't look. It doesn't concern me. I just think, whatever. How are we going to deal with the ideology and the institution of the church that exploits people, not just him? You know, there's loads of preachers like him. But I wasn't aware of how intricate that place was. I know that one of my daughters attended once with some student friends of hers and wasn't very impressed. But I don't really know much about them. And this week we've seen this massive expose coming out. I do believe they've been exposed in the past. Never saw the documentary about dodgy dealings and certain things that were going on at that time. I think it was in 2016 or something. I've heard reports that the pastors run away to Nigeria, and that they're trying to rebrand themselves. But I find it really, really concerning, the things that I've heard this week. You know, what's going on in this mansion house? Is there anyone that can come on and tell me a little bit more about it? I've not had the time to research it this week, but it's clearly everywhere. And it's very concerning for me. And what I do also know, and that's the bit that kind of stood out to me the most, yeah, what I do know and what I was told by various different people when we were calling out this nasty character is that he is very heavily affiliated with these people at SPAC Nation, this Toba character that we spoke about last week, that is also affiliated to Mr. Play. And every time we investigate these things and different people come up and whatever, I guarantee you, family, I guarantee you that we're always going to find some sort of backlink with these people. What's really going on in SPAC Nation is what I want to know. And why is that character, is by all accounts, for those of you that missed the live last week, has been drugging women, allegedly, raping them, you know, is a complete misogynist, is guilty of misogynoir on a grand scale. Why SPAC Nation? And now this is coming out about grooming of young girls, sexual assault of young girls, how it's not dealt with, how it's encouraged. And you've seen on my Instagram, I've put up this woman character, again, didn't have time to upload her image for tonight. And how she's been very, very instrumental, you know, almost leading this kind of thing. I'd like to know what's going on in SPAC Nation. I don't understand it. Somebody else said they heard about the mansion on TikTok. So did I. I had no idea. I just thought there were a bunch of mega church scammers. I didn't know if that was even true or if it was propaganda because they were actually doing something positive. I didn't really have much of an opinion about them. What I did find a bit odd is when my daughter went there and she said that it was all about bling and money and all of these things. I looked into it a little bit then and I just thought, oh, bloody hell, here we go. Here we go. It's Billy Graham all over again, or it's this one or that one, or, you know, there's always a scandal, isn't there, with these mega churches and taking people's money. So for me, it ended there. I didn't know there was a more sinister side. I didn't know that young girls were being groomed in this establishment and that they, you know, there's just holes everywhere and that they've got operations everywhere and fraud going on and financial abuses going on with these young people taking out loans and whatever. I've just got one question, my brothers and sisters. Why do we allow it in our community? We got to stop barling and blaming other people. Why is this man so huge? Why is this church so huge in our community? Why aren't we storming their building? as a community, as concerned parents whose children are going there every Sunday. You know, why are these children, you know, they're probably vulnerable and being targeted and don't have much parental stability? Because I can't imagine some chick trying to sell my daughter religion that I don't necessarily agree with, or their brand of religion that I don't agree with, and texting her and inviting her to brunches at the age of 13 years old. To me, that's insanity. How is this possible? What's going on with the parents? What's going on with the community to allow this to happen? Or is it that the parents think, yeah, amazing, it's church? You know, it's probably that. You know, it's this over belief in institution without checking people, giving people hero status because they have money and positions, you know, or power in other ways through violence or whatever. That's the issue. Lord have mercy and I go kill me. You know what? I'm getting old. And I've been fighting since I was 18 years old. Actively. Ideologically, probably before that, even in school. You know, and in school. I went to grew up in a very racist area with lots of injustices through school and everywhere else. And I think I've been fighting all my life, really. But an activist since the age of 18. I'm now in my 50s. And all I can see that it seems to be getting worse, my brothers and sisters. It really, really does. So I just want to know what's going on in SPAC Nation. If anyone can DM me, give me more information. I've reached out to the sister that done the original post. I haven't looked in the DMs, but hopefully she's got back to me. It'd be great to collaborate with her and do a proper investigation, get some witnesses and stuff together and really proper expose them, because something does sound right to me, my brothers and sisters. It's really, really odd. Apparently the house was in Shirley in South London, according to someone. Shirley in Surrey, that Shirley. And churches in the 20th century about money. It's very, very sad. But, you know, let them stay there, because it could only be, if you want to go Christocentric, the devil that they are serving, you know? The very scripture that they try to purport is the very scripture that speaks of people like them, you know, and how much of a downfall they'll be having. So I just don't understand people and material things and wickedness and all of that, because I believe in the hereafter and I believe in the Most High, and I believe that and karma, and that you will get your comeuppance if you're wicked to people. I believe in standing up against the wicked and speaking the truth, but I do believe in trying to be as fair as I possibly can and not actively going out of my way to destroy people or hate on them or make their lives a misery or do anything that's cruel, you know? It's just this moral code that is missing from our people. But while we're on this SPAC Nation things, I can't speak too much on it, or I just know what everybody else knows. I wanted to highlight it because I'm so appalled and because there's something very dubious there. I don't think that's even the tip of the iceberg. My fear, and I'm not accusing these people of that, but when I'm looking at the connections, and particularly that last guy that I showed, and, you know, certain things that I know that I haven't revealed, my fear is that there's an operation going on of some description that is money making, and is exploiting our children, our girls and our children, our vulnerable people. I don't know. As I say, I cannot confirm. I could be completely wrong, in which case I'll apologize. But at the end of the day, there ain't no smoke without fire, my brothers and sisters. Something are going in SPAC Nation. And I want to know what. That's what I want to know. I want victims to come forward and not to be intimidated. But when you're dealing with, by all intents and purposes, what seems to be a cult, you know, there's a whole lot of work that goes into it. It's not just about people exiting, actually. You have to literally deprogram those people from the ideology. And that's a very specialist work, you know, in terms of psychology. So we don't even begin to have that type of infrastructure to deal with people when they exit. We can all say, yeah, leave, and they're you know, they're fraudsters and they're whatever. But a lot of people are going to be psychologically damaged. It's a little bit like, you know, the Eliada and Esther lot that we talked about in terms of that cult that's been operating in North London. It's a little bit like them, really, because can you imagine, you know, having to exit their followers with all that scary rhetoric that's been going on and God knows what else? It's not an easy task, my brothers and sisters. When are we going to put things in place that enable these things to be addressed? is what I really want to know. But that brings me to my next topic then, because I received a call this week. I received a string of DMs from an individual, and I also had a conversation with a young sister who has been very, very damaged. She's actually quite eloquent on the topic. And a lot of that has been through life experience, but it's about colorism. It's about the vilification of darker skinned women in favor of lighter skinned Black women, mixed race women, and white women. And it's not a phenomenon that I have ever experienced in my entire life. It's not something that was huge when I was growing up. Far as I could see, Black men loved Black women, and they didn't, whatever shade was your fancy. If you're into light-skinned girls, all good to you. If you're into dark-skinned girls, all good to you too. There was a sort of standoff a little bit between, not a little bit, quite a lot actually, between the Caribbean community and the West African community, namely Nigeria, Ghana, whatever, where I feel that the Caribbean community abused the indigenous African community that was in the UK in terms of calling them things like bubble. My parents weren't having none of that. If we came home with that word, we'd be beaten at the end of the day. But of course, I knew my peers and lots of people in my family, some of them even still think like that, which is just so regressive, that they still use the word bubble for their own brothers and sisters, which is to me absolutely abhorrent, particularly because that's where you come from and you look exactly the same, But there's an issue emerging in our schools. I've been made aware of this, and I've been kind of talking to certain people like my daughters and different young people over the last kind of 48 hours. And I'm told that it's really a thing, that there are lots of people with big platforms, like men particularly, that absolutely vilify Black women who are of darker complexion. And I'm told that it's particularly a problem in schools, with young Black boys, largely from African and Caribbean backgrounds, but mainly African backgrounds, I'm told, who are also very dark-skinned themselves, who make it their business to completely destroy darker-skinned girls, namely their sisters, their cousins, their aunties, their mothers, and they destroy them at school. And I'm told that it's a sort of collaboration between, the bullying is a collaboration between the very dark-skinned Black boys, or these Black boys, not always very dark-skinned, but mainly, white girls, mixed race girls, and these Black boys. What the hell? How did this happen? Is this true, people? Give me a 1 if you've heard of this, if it's true. I must be sheltered. I knew we had a colorism problem, like light skin's better, dark skin's better, but I didn't know it had got to such a critical mass that there are Black girls experiencing body dysmorphia because they're being called ugly their entire school life. What is this? What is this? And is it about the vilification, the demonization, the objectification of Black women in terms of, being fodder, it's okay to kind of gang rape the girls who are in your community. It's okay to do all of these things. And there's just massive undervaluing of Black girls and women that has now transcended, or descended, I should say, into this phenomena in our school system. And actually, I watched that video of this young boy who wasn't Black, slashing his knife at this Black woman. I heard she was aggy. I heard that she had mental health issues and she was, having an argument with the children and whatever. But when I saw it, I couldn't help thinking to myself, tell me if this is right or wrong. I couldn't help thinking to myself, would he have done that and had exactly the same reaction if it had been a woman from his community, or that was closer to wherever he's from, because he kind of looked mixed anyway? Would he have had the same response? I don't know. Come and talk to me, people. Tell me what you think. I don't know if he would have had the same response. I don't know if he would. It just seemed to me that it was this sort of cheapening of Black lives, and even more cheapening of black women and objectification of black women in the sense that, you know, it's okay to beat us up, it's okay to rape us. If our own men do it, why would another young boy who's not from the community have that respect for the auntie? Because that's all I saw. I saw a young boy in his school uniform trying to stab up her auntie. What the hell is going on there? And it wasn't his auntie, if that makes sense. You know, from what I could see, I don't know what he was. He could have been anything from black and white mixed race to Turkish Cypriot. He looked to me. I couldn't tell. But I could tell that he wasn't black in the classic sense of the word, you know? And I'm thinking, is the lack of respect come from there? Is it a general thing? Because it seemed to me there was two very dark-skinned boys that pulled him off and they didn't go there. There was another mixed race girl that poured drink over the woman. And I'm kind of linking it all up and you know, because I'm hearing that that there's this issue with black women being seen as inferior because they're dark-skinned in the school system. Then I see that with school children clearly disrespecting a black elder, you know, or an elder for them in any event. So come on and talk to me about it. There was some information shared with me because it's come up a few times, actually, my brothers and sisters, with various different people. So I went digging a little bit and because some information was shared with me by a couple of people. And I'm appalled. I don't even know where to begin with it because I really didn't understand that it had got to that level of public humiliation in our system. I had no idea whatsoever. So where is it gone? Yeah, so I came across these tweets. I didn't come across them, actually. They were sent to me by a couple of different people. And it's things like, there is a guy, actually, before I go into it, there's a guy called Mr. Exposed. I've never heard of him in my entire life. I know nothing about this man. But I'm told that he's particularly comes to these things and that there was a set of sisters who had a podcast called Receipts, who tried to call him out about it, about what he was saying about black women, all the nasty things that he was saying. He's a black man. And he actually, what his response to doing that was to actually go and buy their copyright. I was thinking, oh my God, I don't think I should call him out. He might try and buy copyright our, or trademark, that's the word, trademark our brand, and therefore shut us down. That was his route. Not sure why he got away with that, but that was quite a scary thing. And I thought, bloody hell, how conniving, but also wickedly brilliant. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, wouldn't want to go for him. But at the same time, I thought, nah, that's a bully right there, because he's clearly guilty of it. It's all in his own hand. There's tweets, there's lots of things that show what he was doing. And he never apologized for that, vilifying his sisters. And I just thought, nah, sod it, you know, in the true spirit of who I am and what I do, I ain't going to hide and talk. It's been sent to me. It's something that's been resting on my chest. It ain't cool. You understand me? And it's something I definitely lick out against, because it's another way to damage the women in our community. You know, I'm being told stories of body dysmorphia and all kinds of madness. And I'm thinking, this has been caused by your own brothers, telling you that you're too black and ugly and nobody don't want you and you're worth nothing. That's what our girls are experiencing in schools, on top of the rape and the sexual abuse. It cannot run, my brothers and sisters. It cannot run. And we need to stand up. We really need to stand up. These are the things that we should be looking out against. I get that when it comes on to being a victim of some of these people, that you're confused and you're scared, and there's a history to this thing, and you live in the community where these people, the whole community will turn on you. That's never an easy thing to bear. You see things like this, I'm expecting to hear big people and their big mouths, because one thing with us, we got big mouths for the wrong things as a community. And I can't always stand in the gap. You understand me? Being the mouthpiece, taking the fire for our community when we're not willing to back our arguments. We love run up our mouth in comments and DMs and whatever else. When did we become a nation of cowards and pussies? Tell me that, because that's all I see. People that are not really willing to put it where they put their mouths. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But I'm going to share some of those with you, brothers and sisters, because I don't know. If Mr. Exposed has grown up, I believe these things were a few years ago. I think there was something that happened in 2019. Some of the tweets were from 2012. If he has grown up, then good on you, brother. You know, I don't have anything against you personally. I am not coming for you. I am simply saying, what's wrong? Because for a black man to have that level of self-hatred, that he would say these things about the women in his community, to me, I only see self-hatred. That's all I see. But let me share some of the things that were said, and I'd love us to discuss it. So we've got a tweet here that says, never forget, at Mr. Expo said, if I was a captain of the Titanic, we'd let lighties on the lifeboats first. Dark-skinned girls get on after the men. Like, seriously? And there's more. There is more, my brothers and sisters. Hold on a second for me. Oh, I think I'm having a hot flush, you know, people. I might have to put my camera off for a while. It's that time of life. Let me find the other banners. 1 second, my brothers and sisters. I'm going to put some more up. Oh, God, where's it gone? Here we are. So it's stuff like that. I can't understand it. I really, really can't. I really, really don't get it. I just don't get it. There's the wife beater one as well, you know, where he's talking about it's okay to beat black women. Brothers and sisters, just 1 second for me. I'm having a hot flush. For those of you over the age of 45, you'll understand what that means. I need to open my windows. I'm going to turn off my camera. Please bear with, and I will be back with you in 5 minutes. Yes, blessed love people. Boy, that was a very intense one. For those of you that understand what my predicament is all about, that was intense, man. I felt faint just now, brothers and sisters. I really, really did. I really, really did. Yeah, let me just recover from that. I've got a very cold rag that I should be patting myself with. Flipping heck. That was an intense one. So, back to the topic. Whew. Back to the topic, brothers and sisters. Colorism in our community. You know, this is another form of damage. Because if you can imagine, you've got a young girl. Let me show some more of these chats as well. So we had the thing about the Titanic. That's where I need a hand fan, Susie Wong. I've actually put my fans were all in the loft. because, it's been winter and we've not had any real hot weather. And I wouldn't have been able to go and get them down right now, but this will have to do. I'm hot. Lord have mercy. My brothers and sisters, I forgot to say, please hit the Cash App and the Super Chat. We can deal with those notices at the end as well. But the colorism thing is really bothering me because I didn't know things like this existed. The wife beater one, I'll put that back up. You're a wife beater, invest in a dark-skinned girl, you can go a whole lot harder. Why? What's that all about? Who hurt you? Were you not breastfed as a child? I just don't understand it. I don't understand it, brothers and sisters. What in the heaven's name is going on in our community? Excuse me. Oh gosh, I'm getting it tonight. What is going on? And there's more. There's another one that says, if I can get to it, breeding black women. That's it. Somebody that says it will be a mistake if they were to. I can see breeding a dark image by mistake. Have them black image babies laugh out loud. Worst nightmare. Jesus Christ. So how would they? Wow. How would you have come along if it wasn't for black love? I don't understand the level of self-hatred that is taking place in our community, my brothers and sisters. It is getting bad. It's getting bad. And we can't have a situation where this is coming from our boys. Excuse me, for coming from our boys. Let me get a drink there, my brothers and sisters, because this heat thing is not a joke. And I've got all my heating off. It's just simply not good enough. So the individual that is responsible for these things is apparently this guy called Mr. Expose. He's the guy that decided that he was going to shut the women down who were trying to call him out and, call him to task about this by buying or trademarking their business, basically their podcast. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. It's not good enough. The latest thing I'm told is quite recent. He's still got this mindset. If you haven't, brother, and you want to talk to us about it, come on and talk to us about it, We need to understand, Mr. Expose, why it is that you have this kind of mindset. The other people that I'm told that have made these kinds of tweets, quite recently, some of them as well. Has anybody heard of something called 3 shots of tequila? Because I've never heard of it before now. But I'm told that these 3 guys are also very busy damaging black girls and women in the way that they do, and probably encouraging the young men that are doing these things in schools, because if you've got these people that have got massive platforms and use those platforms to do these things, then who do you think are going to be the role models? I don't know much about them. Again, I'd love some more information. We can talk about it again next week, my brothers and sisters. I'm actually not feeling very well. I think I'm going to have to shut this live down. I feel quite faint and very hot, and I think I need to go and lie down. No one wants to come on and speak anyway, my brothers and sisters. I just wanted to raise those topics. As I said to you guys, we didn't have enough time this week to prepare some of our cases that we've been working on because of the bereavement that I've had. So it's going to be a short live, whichever way we swing it. And even more now that I'm having this hot flush and not feeling very good at all. So my brothers and sisters, unless you've got anything else to say, if anyone wants to come on, if they want to give their opinion, I think I'm going to end and have a very early evening, my brothers and sisters. But it's a conversation. We're going to revisit it. We're going to have call outs next week, and we're going to be back, and hopefully I won't be feeling like this. But I'm going to have to say goodnight to you, my brothers and sisters. Menopause, definitely. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week on His Time Is Up. Blessed love.